What exactly is the paradox between democracy and individualism? When we are presented with anything to do with social structure or politics, it is always presented to us along linear lines: left wing, right wing, collectivism, individualism, socialism, capitalism, and so on and so forth. However, in my opinion, the more I looked into this, the more I realised that this was not just an illusion, but it was a form of trickery to distract us from what is really happening. The reality, as I see it, is that political structures are not based along linear extremes, but more along overlapping circles that move around like positively charged ions. And the one that has the greatest energy and force is the one that will have the greatest influence upon us. But what's the difference? The difference is that while our attention is focused at one extreme or the other, because that's where we have been encouraged and manipulated to look, we miss what's happening before our very eyes. As Aldous Huxley documented in his book Brave New World, How Do You Control the Masses? He once said that for a totalitarian structure to work, there must be a degree of compliance from the oppressed people. Because when people are pushed beyond a certain point where they do not fear the option, albeit death, they become the greatest threat of all. We've seen that in uprisings throughout history: Boudica, Spartacus, the Zanj Rebellion, where over 500,000 African slaves rebelled against the Caliphate, the Bolsheviks, and so on and so forth. When people are pushed beyond a certain point, they have nothing to lose. However, as Aldous Huxley documented in Brave New World, when you allow people to overdose on that which they want the most, and you allow them to desensitize themselves by themselves, you destroy society, and you can easily manipulate that society. And just as Aldous Huxley preceded George Orwell with 1984, so his vision of Brave New World and a world of hedonism preceded the world of totalitarianism. In the meantime, we are presented with the aspiration for law and order and democracy. However, the reality is that we are gradually being drip-fed, engineered social chaos. Behind the scenes, an entire army of young, disrespectful, rebellious, undisciplined young people who have been inflamed with entitledness are causing havoc within our cities, presenting us with the illusion that we are on a slippery slope to social chaos, and that we are on the slippery slope to lawlessness. However, in parallel, we are living in the most totalitarianist times in the free world. This is yet another example of manipulation on the grandest scale, because just as these youngsters have been inflamed and unleashed upon us with malice aforethought and an agenda, the same pattern will follow. Create the problem, terrify the nation, offer a solution. And that solution, I assure you, is not one that, were we to know it in advance, that any of us would agree to. This is why we are denied democracy in its purest and absolute form. No one person can be trusted to have absolute power, because that is the very nature of humanity. No one person should not be accountable to the people. And the masses, despite how they are portrayed in the media, despite the way that people who feel that the masses have voted or their opinion, it is only the masses who can keep those who are in control grounded, and that is why they must always answer directly to the people. That is not what is happening now. As we've seen just in the last year or so, the party in power removed one leader after another without the mandate of the people. And in response to protests, they said on many occasions, that we're not a presidential system. We don't vote for a prime minister. We vote for a candidate. But who is it who is paraded in front of us night after night when there is an election? Who is it that will speak in a electoral broadcast before an election? It is always the prime minister or the aspiring prime minister. And yet these people feel that they have the legal right to remove the person who we elected, to ignore the wishes of the people and enforce their will, and then make a few changes, like this joke speech about net zero from Fishy Rishi this week, just a week or two after he presided over the energy bill, where you and I can go to prison for not keeping in line with their net zero targets whenever they, or whoever is elected into power next, begin to reinforce them. If he were genuine, he would not have presented this bill to the House of Lords. He would have kicked it out. None of them can be trusted, and the only way that society can protect itself from this blatant, arrogant authoritarianism that is heading our way is to demand democracy and to have MPs, local candidates, who are answerable to the people. And the people, in turn, must step up and ensure that they answer to them. They must not be placated with cynical token gestures. I hope this makes sense to you. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye bye for now.